The garage door rises before the front door opens. That small fact tells you almost everything. A house wakes at 7 in the morning. The coffee is poured, shoes are tied, a bag is carried into the garage. The driver slides into a padded seat, presses a button, and leaves home without stepping into the street. The car reverses into the morning, the garage door lowers, and the house seals itself again. No greeting passes across a fence. No neighbor is seen sweeping a porch. No child drags a stick along the curb. The journey has begun, yet public life has not. The driver moves from one private room into another. House, garage, car, parking lot, store, car again, garage again. The entire errand may take an hour, cover 12 miles, and involve hundreds of people, while producing almost no human contact at all. This is one of the automobile's quietest achievements. It has made every errand private. An errand once carried a person through the life of a place. You left the house because you needed bread, medicine, thread, nails, tobacco, fruit, or a newspaper. The practical need gave you a reason to enter the neighborhood. The route mattered. The people along it mattered. The errand did more than obtain an object. It renewed your membership in the small republic beyond your door. The woman at the bakery knew which loaf your family preferred. The grocer knew who had moved into the apartment above the tailor. The old man near the corner had an opinion about the weather, the mayor, and the moral decline of young people, all delivered with equal confidence. A child passed on a bicycle. Someone called your name from across the street. You stopped for 30 seconds, perhaps 3 minutes, perhaps long enough to forget why you had left home. Nothing spectacular occurred. That was the point. A community is rarely built from dramatic moments. It is built from repetition, familiar faces, brief exchanges, the same door opening each morning, the same shopkeeper looking up when the bell rings, the same woman watering geraniums, the same boy growing taller every summer until one day he is gone, and everyone notices. These small recognitions form the nervous system of a neighborhood. They tell people that they are visible. They create a mild form of obligation. They allow concern to travel before official services are summoned. The pharmacist notices when an elderly customer fails to appear. The butcher hears that a family has had a baby. The barber knows which factory is cutting shifts before the newspaper prints a line. Yes, some of this knowledge becomes gossip. Human beings have always found a way to convert concern into entertainment. Yet gossip is the unruly cousin of attention. It may be annoying, it may be invasive. It may also mean that someone notices when the curtains stay closed for 3 days. Total privacy sounds peaceful until nobody sees you disappear. The automobile altered this pattern because it altered the journey itself. A person walking is present in the street. A person driving is passing through it. The distinction looks small, its consequences are vast. Inside a car, the world appears through glass. The cabin is enclosed, padded, temperature-controlled, and acoustically sealed. The driver chooses the music, the route, the temperature, and the degree to which outside life is permitted to intrude. Rain becomes a sound on the roof. Heat becomes a number on the dashboard. Strangers become shapes moving beyond the windshield. The driver occupies public space without joining it. He passes hundreds of people and meets none of them. He can cross an entire town while remaining inside a room no larger than a pantry. A very expensive pantry, perhaps, with heated seats and Bluetooth, but still a pantry on wheels. The car grants a curious sovereignty. Inside it, the driver becomes monarch of a tiny realm with cup holders. He chooses the soundtrack. He controls the climate. He locks the doors. He moves through the common world while preserving private command. This feels like freedom. Often, it is freedom. It is also separation. The windshield becomes a frame through which the city is interpreted. What does the driver see? Traffic lights, brake lights, lane markings, signs, obstacles, hazards, openings, delays. The pedestrian is no longer a neighbor approaching at human speed. He becomes something that may enter the road. The cyclist becomes something that may slow the lane. The child becomes a danger to traffic flow, though the child is standing in front of his own house. The city begins to look different from behind glass. It looks less like a shared home and more like a system to be crossed. That change in perception then reshapes the street itself. Traditional streets carried several forms of life at once. They allowed movement, commerce, conversation, display, play, and observation. A woman could stand outside a shop. Children could move between doorways. A merchant could place goods near the curb. A man could stop and speak without needing a formal reason. The street was not empty space between buildings, it was a room without a roof. Cars demanded another kind of street. They needed width, speed, clear sightlines, turning radius, parking access. Traffic engineers began to judge streets by capacity and flow. A street that moved more vehicles per hour became a better street. A street that caused drivers to slow became a problem. Once that definition took hold, every other use began to appear irrational. A tree near the curb obstructed visibility. A bench encouraged people to remain where traffic was meant to pass. A narrow lane caused congestion. A shopfront close to the street complicated movement. A child crossing the road became a safety issue created by the child. The street was gradually converted from a social place into a transportation corridor. This did not happen because anyone declared war on conversation. No mayor stood at a podium and announced a plan to reduce neighborly recognition by 32%. The change came through standards, setbacks, parking requirements, road classifications, speed targets, and design manuals written in language dry enough to preserve crackers. The technical terms concealed the human trade. A wider road meant faster travel. It also meant fewer crossings. More parking meant easier access by car. It also pushed buildings farther apart. Larger setbacks improved visibility. They also removed the storefront from the pedestrian's reach. The machine asked for room, and the town gave it room. Then more room. Then a little more, because the left turn queue was backing up near the pharmacy. Soon the pharmacy was no longer near anything. It stood behind a parking lot. Follow the modern Errand from beginning to end. A person leaves the house through an attached garage. The front door faces the street, but the garage is the real entrance. The driver enters the car before entering public space. He backs into a wide residential road, turns onto an arterial road, passes a series of walls, signs, and parking entrances, then arrives at a commercial building surrounded by asphalt. The destination has been designed for the car's arrival. The store does not meet the sidewalk because there may be no sidewalk to meet. It faces a parking field. Its signs are large enough to be read at 40 miles per hour. Its architecture must explain itself quickly. Subtlety is wasted on traffic. The driver parks, crosses several rows of cars, enters the building, obtains the item, returns to the car, and leaves. The entire trip occurs through managed interiors and vehicle space. The public interval has vanished. House leads to car. Car leads to store. Store leads to car. Car leads back to house. A person may run 3 errands and never stand anywhere without a roof, except while crossing a parking lot under mild suspicion. This changes the scale of commerce. A pedestrian can carry only so much. He tends to shop near home and buy what he needs. A driver can travel farther, carry more, and choose among larger stores. Businesses respond by expanding their service area. Shops grow, parking grows, signs grow, roads widen. Small neighborhood businesses lose foot traffic and close. Then the town observes that people prefer to drive. Of course they do. The bakery is now 4 miles away across 6 lanes of traffic. The automobile weakens nearby commerce. The loss of nearby commerce makes walking less useful. Walking declines further. The decline is then treated as proof that walking was never wanted. The patient is pushed down the stairs and diagnosed with poor balance. The disappearance of small shops carries a social cost because such places once served as low-level meeting grounds. The corner store was a business, yet it was also a place where local life brushed against itself. People waited. They overheard. They recognized faces. They learned the rhythm of the neighborhood. The large roadside store offers abundance. It may offer lower prices, wider selection, longer hours, and clean restrooms. These are real benefits. Yet it is crowded with bodies and strangely poor in encounter. You may pass 200 people beneath fluorescent lights and leave knowing none of them. The cashier may be replaced by a screen. The screen does not notice that you have not been in for a week. The screen has no opinion about your new coat. The screen will never tell your mother that you looked tired. Perhaps this is a mercy. It is also a loss. The automobile did not eliminate social life. It forced social life to become scheduled. When people no longer cross paths during ordinary movement, meetings require arrangement. Friendship needs a calendar. Coffee requires a message. Dinner requires travel time, parking, reservations, and a negotiation over who must drive home in the dark. The spontaneous visit becomes unusual. The unplanned conversation becomes a delay. The acquaintance fades because acquaintance is too weak to justify the administrative labor of maintaining it. Close friends remain, family remains, everyone else drifts outward. This matters because a functioning society depends on weak ties. The familiar stranger, the shopkeeper you know by sight, the neighbor whose name you almost remember, the parent you see near the school, the old man who sits at the same table each morning. These people do not belong to your inner circle. They still create social continuity. They make a place feel inhabited rather than occupied. Repeated recognition produces trust without intimacy. It tells you who belongs. It tells others that you belong. When every interaction must be scheduled, social life narrows toward people already chosen. We meet those we like, those who share our interests, those who fit our calendar, those who live within a manageable driving radius. The neighborhood loses its power to introduce us to the unselected human being. That unselected person may be older, poorer, stranger, duller, louder, kinder, or more irritating than anyone we would choose online. He may speak too long. He may repeat himself. He may have political opinions assembled from 20 years of local radio. He is still part of the place. A neighborhood teaches coexistence through proximity. The automobile allows people to assemble life from separated destinations. Home in one district, work in another, shopping in a third, worship in a fourth, friends scattered across the region. The driver may spend each day moving among several social worlds without belonging fully to the ground between them. His loyalty travels along routes rather than streets. He knows the freeway exits. He does not know the people next door. This mobility can widen opportunity. It can also dissolve local dependence. A person who needs nothing from nearby people feels little obligation toward them. If the coffee shop closes, he drives farther. If the school weakens, he transfers. If the neighborhood declines, he moves. The vehicle makes exit easier than repair. That habit reaches politics. Citizens begin to think like drivers. They ask how to bypass difficulty. They look for faster routes. They become impatient with delay, friction, and inherited obligation. The road trains the mind. Children feel this change most sharply. A child once learned the neighborhood by moving through it. He walked to school. He rode a bicycle to a friend's house. He carried a coin to a shop and returned with bread, candy, or the wrong item because he had forgotten the instructions halfway there. These small journeys taught geography, judgment, and confidence. The child learned which dog barked behind the fence, which crossing flooded after rain, which adult could be trusted, which alley saved 5 minutes, which tree produced fruit, which house belonged to the widow who needed help carrying groceries. He learned that the neighborhood was partly his. Fast traffic shrank that world. A nearby destination became unsafe because the road between home and destination had been designed for speed. Sidewalks disappeared. Crossings lengthened. Parents adapted by driving. The child became a passenger. His world expanded in miles and contracted in independence. He could reach a soccer field 10 miles away, yet could not safely walk 6 blocks to a friend. Parents became transport staff. Their days filled with pickups, drop-offs, practices, appointments, and errands. The family car promised freedom, then quietly hired the adults as unpaid chauffeurs. The back seat became the child's view of public life. From there, the town appeared as a sequence of destinations connected by glass. School, store, practice, home. The space between them had no meaning. This matters because citizenship begins before voting. It begins when a child learns to move through shared space, judge small risks, speak to adults, wait, observe, and return home carrying responsibility. A child who never travels without supervision does not learn the neighborhood as a field of action. He learns it as scenery. The elderly suffer a related loss. In a place built around walking, the reduction of physical strength may shrink a person's range gradually. In a place built around driving, the loss of a license can erase ordinary life in a single afternoon. The house remains where it was. The grocery store remains 3 miles away. The library remains nearby on a map. Yet the world has moved beyond reach. Driving becomes an informal membership requirement for participation. Without a car, a person may be close to everything and connected to nothing. This isolates the elderly, the disabled, the poor, and anyone whose circumstances make driving impossible. A town built around its fastest travelers quietly abandons everyone else. Then it wonders why loneliness rises. The question is treated as a medical mystery. Perhaps the answer is partly architectural. A person cannot greet a neighbor on a sidewalk that does not exist. A child cannot walk to a shop that has been placed behind 6 lanes of traffic. An old woman cannot remain part of public life when the public world begins at the far edge of a parking lot. Ugliness forms people too. So does distance. So does speed. The shape of a place teaches its residents what kind of contact is normal. A narrow street tells the driver to pay attention. A wide road tells him to accelerate. A shop near the sidewalk invites entry. A blank wall says keep moving. A bench says someone may remain here. A parking lot says leave when the transaction is complete. The built world is always giving instructions. Most of them are never spoken. Modern design has become very good at moving people toward places where they are discouraged from lingering. The cafe offers a chair, though often only after the purchase of a drink priced like a minor diplomatic gift. The shopping center offers a plaza, though private security may object if you stand too long without demonstrating commercial intent. The park may exist, though reaching it requires crossing a road that seems designed to test the moral seriousness of pedestrians. We have created public-looking spaces that remain governed by private purpose. Third places struggle under this order because third places depend on unplanned presence. A third place is neither home nor work. It is the tavern, cafe, library, square, barbershop, front stoop, parish hall, corner store, club, or park, where people may appear without an appointment. Such places need proximity. They need repetition. They need people arriving at walking speed. They need the possibility that someone may remain after the practical reason for arriving has ended. The automobile works against these conditions because it turns arrival into a transaction. Drive there, park, enter, purchase, leave. The clock is running. The next destination waits. The car sits outside, like a small metal reminder that one should be moving on. A walking person can drift. A driver tends to calculate. Where will I park? How long will this take? What traffic will I face? Can I combine this with another stop? The errand becomes a route problem. The neighborhood becomes a diagram. The human encounter becomes a variable. This habit of calculation changes attention. Walking reveals detail because the body moves slowly enough to receive it. A person notices a cracked cornice, a blooming tree, a new sign, a house under repair, a dog in a window, a face at a table. Driving compresses the world. Buildings become landmarks. Districts become zones. A neighborhood becomes the area after the gas station, but before the difficult left turn. The driver sees what helps him navigate. Everything else dissolves. Affection rarely grows from abstraction. It grows from repeated attention to particular things. The worn stone near a doorway. The smell from a bakery vent. The old tree that leans toward the church. The sound of dishes from an open window. These details become memory. Memory becomes attachment. Attachment becomes care. The automobile permits great mobility, yet mobility often strips away the details from which loyalty is made. A driver can know a whole region and love none of it. He knows where things are. He does not know what they mean. The defense of the automobile is easy to understand because its benefits are concrete. It carries heavy goods. It serves rural distances. It allows families to manage complicated schedules. It brings workers to jobs. It gives the elderly mobility while they can still drive. It can be a tool of independence, rescue, pleasure, and necessity. The problem begins when a useful tool becomes the organizing principle of settlement. A tool belongs in the hand. It does not belong on the altar. Once the car sits on the altar, every sacrifice appears reasonable. Wider roads, larger parking lots, longer distances, fewer shops, more traffic, less walking. Then more driving becomes necessary to solve the problems caused by driving. The machine does not merely serve the town. The town is rebuilt to serve the machine. This exchange is difficult to perceive because the gains are measurable and the losses are diffuse. We can measure travel time, retail sales, Parking capacity. Vehicle throughput. We cannot easily measure the conversation that never occurred outside the bakery. No spreadsheet records the elderly man who stopped recognizing children because children no longer passed his porch. No quarterly report records the friendship that might have formed between two parents who once walked the same route. No traffic model records the civic cost of a street where nobody stands still. The losses arrive quietly. A greeting disappears. A shop closes. A child stops walking. A bench is removed. A road widens. A neighbor becomes a stranger. Each event seems small. Together, they produce a civilization of private errands. Around this point, the argument deepens. The automobile did more than alter transportation. It changed the relation between the individual and the common world. Before the car-dominated settlement, public life was difficult to avoid. The street placed people before one another. Daily needs required participation in a visible order. You could dislike your neighbors. You still had to see them. The car allowed the individual to move through society while minimizing contact with society. This suited the modern desire for personal control. The driver chooses the route, the temperature, the sound, and the company. He enters the world on his own terms. The public realm becomes something he crosses between private destinations. This is a political formation. A people trained to experience the common world as delay will have little patience for common life. A people trained to treat strangers as obstacles will struggle to practice civic trust. A people accustomed to private control may resent every form of dependence. Yet civilization is dependence made honorable. We depend on craftsmen, neighbors, shopkeepers, teachers, drivers, nurses, clerks, builders, and strangers whose names we never learn. The public world makes this dependence visible. Automobile life hides it behind transactions and distance. You tap a screen, a package arrives. You drive to a store. The shelf is stocked. The systems remain unseen. The people remain abstract. This is how a society becomes materially connected and socially thin. The automobile also encouraged a politics of sorting. Once movement became easy, people could select schools, shops, churches, workplaces, and social circles across a large territory. This freedom allowed escape from bad conditions. It also weakened the discipline of staying near people one did not choose. A healthy town contains friction. The rich pass the poor. The old see the young. The eccentric must endure the conventional. The conventional must endure the eccentric. The child encounters adults outside the family. The resident meets people who have no shared hobby, political tribe, or professional vocabulary. This contact can be awkward. It is also civilizational mortar. Without it, social life fragments into chosen camps. People form communities of taste, status, politics, and identity, while losing contact with nearby reality. The stranger online may feel closer than the neighbor across the fence. The result is a peculiar loneliness. People are connected by networks and separated by roads. They speak constantly and encounter rarely. They belong to causes, fandoms, professions, and digital circles, yet may know nobody within a 5-minute walk. The town becomes a storage system for private lives. Each household retreats behind a garage door. Each family travels outward for work, shopping, school, worship, and recreation. The neighborhood itself has little to do. It contains houses. It lacks a common life. The architecture expresses the condition perfectly. The garage faces the street. The porch shrinks. The front door becomes ceremonial. The house presents a mouth for the car and a token entrance for the human being. The building tells you where the real movement occurs. The automobile did not create loneliness alone. No single machine carries that much blame without applying for public office. Yet it supplied the physical form through which privacy, distance, and social sorting became ordinary. It made isolation practical. It made dispersal convenient. It made public life optional. That last change may be the deepest. When public life becomes optional, the people most able to withdraw will withdraw first. Wealth buys distance, private amenities, larger lots, better vehicles, and controlled settings. The common world is left to those who cannot escape it. Then public space declines further. The decline becomes another reason to withdraw. The cycle tightens. A civilized society cannot survive on private excellence alone. Fine homes, educated families, cultivated tastes, and personal virtue matter, yet they require a public setting capable of carrying trust between strangers. Without that setting, every household becomes a fortress supplied by delivery trucks. A polished fortress may still be a fortress. Repair does not require abolishing the automobile. It requires dethroning it. The car can remain useful without determining the shape of every street, shop, school, and home. A town may permit driving while refusing to let speed govern every decision. The recovery begins with distance. Daily needs must return near daily life. A small grocery near homes. A cafe within walking reach. A school connected by safe streets. A library that does not sit behind a moat of traffic. A park reached without an expedition. These places must be woven into the neighborhood rather than placed at the edge of it. Street design matters because design instructs behavior. Narrow lanes slow drivers. Short crossings protect walkers. Trees create enclosure. Benches permit rest. Windows place eyes on the street. Front doors remind everyone that people live here. The goal is not picturesque decoration. The goal is human presence. A beautiful street may still fail if nothing useful lies along it. People do not walk because planners ask them to perform civic virtue before breakfast. They walk when the route is direct, safe, pleasant, and connected to real needs. The public errand must be practical. Bread, coffee, a letter, a book, medicine, a child's walk to school. The ordinary journey carries the greatest power because it repeats. Grand plazas matter. Festivals matter. Public ceremonies matter. Yet the life of a place is sustained between ceremonies, on Tuesday morning when someone needs milk. The small shop matters because it gives repetition a location. The shaded sidewalk matters because it makes the route bearable. The bench matters because a body may need to stop. The slow crossing matters because childhood and old age move at their own speed. The street should accept every stage of life. A town that works only for the strong adult driver has misunderstood its purpose. Children should appear without being treated as traffic defects. The elderly should remain visible without requiring rescue. The poor should participate without purchasing a machine. The disabled should move through space with dignity. The able-bodied should be reminded that they share the world with all of them. This is where beauty returns to the argument. Beauty is order made visible to the senses. A good street reveals a moral order. It shows that movement matters, yet speed has limits. Commerce matters, yet human presence has priority. Privacy matters, yet the common world deserves form. The machine has a place, though the human being holds the center. A beautiful town does not need to shout this. The proportions say it. The materials say it. The distance between doors says it. The shade says it. The pace says it. A child crossing safely says it better than any planning document. The automobile's war on third places will end when the errand becomes public again. That does not mean every journey must become a social performance. People need solitude. They need privacy. They need the freedom to move without conversation. The street should permit silence as well as greeting. The deeper aim is possibility. The possibility of being seen. The possibility of recognizing someone. The possibility of stopping. The possibility of belonging without an appointment. A healthy public realm does not force friendship. It makes familiarity possible. That is enough to begin. Consider the same morning with which we started. The house wakes. Coffee is poured. Shoes are tied. A bag is carried toward the door. This time the front door opens. The garage remains closed. The person steps onto a narrow sidewalk beneath trees. Cars still pass, though slowly. A child moves ahead with a backpack. An elderly woman waits near the bakery. A man lifts an awning. Someone across the street raises a hand. The errand takes longer than driving. 5 minutes, perhaps 10. There is a delay near the corner because a neighbor asks after a sick friend. Another delay occurs because the baker has opinions about the new building proposal. These opinions arrive free with the bread. The person returns home carrying little. A loaf. A newspaper. A small piece of local news. Yet during the journey, he has been seen. He has seen others. The neighborhood has entered his memory again. The street has ceased to be an obstacle between private rooms. It has become a place. The front door closes behind him. The bread rests on the table. Outside, another person begins the same walk. A grand world awaits.